AI, well, it's more like a lie. Are you familiar with Chat GPT? Probably, a lot of you are. It's a multi-purpose tool that, if used responsibly, is a valuable asset to add to your toolbox. But upon logging in to Chat GPT, there's some pretty significant information it gives you at the very beginning, and one of them is that it can provide you with misleading or incorrect information from time to time. And what this video is about is how we have the responsibility of making sure that the information it provides us with is accurate and not misleading. And I want to share with you my experience and then share ways that you can use this tool responsibly. If you find this video to be useful, I'd really appreciate considering hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Technology is supposed to make our lives easier, but sometimes we're left cleaning up a mess of confidently shared misinformation. There's a pretty famous tweet that's going around where somebody asks ChatGPT what the fastest marine mammal is, and ChatGPT's reply is the peregrine falcon, which is neither marine nor mammal. And after some modifications are made, it then says that the fastest marine mammal is the sailfish, which, even though it's marine, it's not a mammal. And that should be demonstration alone to realize that the information that it provides you with, at least at times, is not guaranteed to be accurate. So I wanted to do a video on dangerous criminals who were caught or apprehended at a traffic stop, how a minor traffic stop for speeding or a headlight being out could result in arresting someone who was wanted for some significantly more serious charges. And so I asked ChatGPT, I said, I need a list of 5 dangerous criminals who were caught by the police on traffic stops. List the crimes they were wanted for and the traffic violation that got them pulled over. And so that was my request, and it gave me 5 criminals, and traffic to a various degree was at times involved and at times not involved. And so I was just going to go through the 5 recommendations it gave me, what I found out to be true after doing my own research, and let you decide for yourself how accurate that was. So let's go to the first one. The first name it gave me was Ted Bundy. Bundy was a law student who had moved to Salt Lake City, Utah to go to law school, and he had already committed a number of violent crimes against women, including murders, although the majority of those had taken place in Washington, in the Seattle area, I believe, although he was already committing crimes in Salt Lake City. As a matter of fact, he had just a little prior to this particular night, he had approached a woman one night, and he was impersonating a police officer. And he tried to kidnap her and strike her with a crowbar, but she managed to escape. I'm not sure exactly how she managed to do that, but she saved herself, and she reported the crime to police. Well, we move up to August of 1975. Police officers responding to a report from another officer asking for help on a totally unrelated crime, and he is on his way to assist this officer, and he takes a wrong turn, which is already a little bit weird but serendipitous, and he finds himself going down a road where is hanging out in the middle of the night, very likely looking for someone to take advantage of. Well, he sees this police car with its lights on, and he panics and flees. Well, police officer makes note of somebody apparently fleeing the police, changes his course of action. They speed through a few neighborhoods, eventually stops at a gas station, and police officer, they talk, and the police officer searches his car and finds some very suspicious materials. Ski mask, some handcuffs. This is somebody who, we've had reports of impersonation of a police officer. An ice pick. Says that those items are being used for one of his classes where he's a law student, and the police officer was going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but something just doesn't feel right about the situation, and he goes with his intuition. And it turns out that he is identified as the gentleman who impersonated the police officer, and he is arrested. He is convicted of attempted kidnapping and does some time in prison. Now, he eventually does escape and go on to commit more violent crimes, and so that's not the last time he was arrested. But Chat GPT, this is pretty much, we have a traffic stop that led to the arrest of a dangerous person. So it's pretty close to correct, although fleeing from the police is sort of what prompted the arrest. It wasn't a simple traffic stop. Let's see what it gave me for a second case. The second case was Eric Matthew Frein. Frein was responsible for a ambush shooting at a state police officer's dormitory or barracks one evening at night in Pennsylvania, and he fled the scene of the crime. No one knew who had committed this act because I believe this was committed with a rifle at some distance, and they did not know who to suspect in this case. And a while later, perhaps the next day, maybe a couple of days later, someone reported a vehicle that was in a drainage, a spillover pool not too far from the barracks. And when police investigated that vehicle, they found identification and shell casings, identification of Mr. Frein, and shell casings linked to the weapon that was used in the shooting. And so he became the most wanted suspect for that crime because of evidence that had been left in this car. There was never a traffic stop, though. What authorities think happened was that Mr. Frein was fleeing the scene of the crime, and he was driving with his lights off, and there was a T. He was coming down, and the road, there was no road on the other side of this T, but he didn't have his lights on. He couldn't see anything. There was this pond there, and he drove right past where he should have stopped and taken a left or a right, and drove his vehicle into this pond accidentally because he had limited visibility. I think he then ditched the vehicle and walked something like 15 or 20 miles to his parents' place. But once again, like I said, Chat GPT, no traffic stop, but a car with incriminating information that was found by the authorities. Number 3, we have Whitey Bulger, a notorious Boston mobster, that's correct, who had been on the run from FBI for 16 years, that's correct. When he was arrested in California, that's correct, after a routine traffic stop. That's not correct. What happened was the FBI had, after several years of not knowing where he was, determined that Bulger and his girlfriend were living in this apartment complex, and they had to figure out how to apprehend him. So what they formulated as a plan was a sting in which they falsely reported that a locker that was kept in the parking garage of their apartment complex, that somebody had broken into this locker, and they needed somebody to come and determine what, if any, items were missing from this burglary. Bulger fell for it. He came down, and as soon as he showed his face, they arrested him on the spot. There was no traffic stop. The vehicle wasn't even involved, but this did take place in a parking garage, so maybe that's why Chat GPT thought that would qualify. I'm not sure. I'm going to say we're getting increasingly more incorrect. These next two, I'll let you decide for yourself how close ChatGPT was on these next two. Let's see. The first one is Luis Bracamantes. It says he was an undocumented immigrant who allegedly killed 2 California law enforcement officers in 2014. He had been on the run for days when he was pulled over for a traffic violation. Yes, he was an undocumented immigrant. The death of 2 California law enforcement officers in 2014 is correct. Been on the run for days when he was pulled over for a traffic violation. No. Those 2 officers died responding to a report of a vehicle, a suspicious vehicle that Bracamantes and his wife were in. And when they approached the vehicle, he shot and murdered the 2 of them and then proceeded to flee, I believe on foot. I think he left the vehicle there. Anyway, there was no routine traffic stop arrest. They were reporting a suspicious vehicle, but he shot and fled. I think he was ultimately arrested on his home. So I'm going to say not exactly, but I'll let you decide how accurate ChatGPT was with that. Moving on. Christopher Dorner was a former Los Angeles police officer, that's correct, who allegedly went on a shooting spree targeting law enforcement officers in 2013. That's correct. He had been on the run for days when he was stopped by police for a traffic violation. The traffic stop led to a shootout between Dorner and police, and he ultimately died in a cabin fire. Dorner had stolen a pickup truck that was reported stolen, and they believed that he was the person who had stolen it because of the manhunt that had been going on. So police, it was not a routine traffic stop. Police were looking for a stolen vehicle. They saw a vehicle that met the description. Actually, this wasn't police. I think it was state wildlife. This was in sort of a very rural area, and I think it was equivalent to like park rangers or game wardens that saw this stolen vehicle. So they were investigating it at first. I don't think they ever stopped the vehicle. I think he ran immediately from him. They followed him to this cabin, and then there was a big standoff at this cabin where police ultimately used some sort of pyrotechnic explosive or gas to try to extract him or incentivize him fleeing the cabin. But I think it was determined that he took his own life inside the cabin. So once again, not exactly a simple traffic stop. But I'll let you decide for yourself how close Chat GPT was on that. In conclusion, using Chat GPT doesn't free you from the responsibility of doing your own research and verifying to the best of your ability that the information that you're providing is accurate information. Just because somebody says something with confidence or something computerized says something to be true, simply saying that a lot of times makes people believe without question that that information is true. There's an expression that I've heard, DYOR. It stands for do your own research, and it gets used a lot with good reason. And I encourage anybody who is using Chat GPT as a tool to do their own research and double and triple check and verify, especially information that they plan to use to inform people or educate people. Do your research and make sure that the information that you're providing is as accurate as possible. And so that's my story with Chat GPT. Now I ask you, what stories, if any, do you have with AI tools? And have you been provided with incorrect or false information? I invite you to leave a comment where you share your experiences and what, if any, misinformation was provided to you. And once again, thank you very much for taking your time to watch. I hope you found this informative, and I hope to see you again on another video sometime soon. Until next time.